Hey humans, how's it going? Susan Ruth here. Thanks for listening to another episode of Hey Human Podcast. This is episode 385, and I had a conversation with Udo Erasmus. He's a best-selling author, most notably Fats That Heal, Fats That Kill, and he's the founder of Udo's Choice. He is the guy who invented flaxseed oil. We discuss pesticide poisoning, pioneering machinery, microbiology, and finding the balance of nutrients to heal ourselves. This is part 2 of my interview with Udo. Find part 1 on episode 375, where we talk all about the spiritual center of self. And this is focusing on the body center. Check out heyhumanpodcast.com for links and to learn more about me and my guests and the show. Check out susanruth.com to learn more about me and my other artistic endeavors. Follow Susan Ruthism and Hey Human Podcast on social media. Find my albums on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, wherever you get your music. And rate, review, subscribe to Hey Human Podcast on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. It's super helpful and I really appreciate it. All right, let's get into this. Thank you for listening. Be well, be kind, be love. Here we go. Hi.
Right. Where are you?
Santa Monica.
Oh, Santa Monica.
How about you?
Vancouver.
Welcome back, first of all. Hi.
Yeah, thank you. Hi.
It's nice to see you again. We're going to jump into part 2. Part 1 was the spiritual self, I suppose, is the best way to put it.
Yeah.
And part 2 is now we're going to speak about the body, how to keep it running well.
Yeah.
Give everyone a little background. I encourage everyone to go listen to the other episode, of course, but give a little background to what led you into the taking things internally to make yourself better.
How I got into nutrition, I got poisoned by pesticides in 1980. And that came out of my marriage broke up. And I was really upset. And I wanted to kill something. So I took a job as a pesticide sprayer because pesticides are only made, their only purpose is to kill things. And so I sprayed them really carelessly for about 3 years. I walked barefoot over the lawns I sprayed till the skin peeled off the bottom of my feet. And then I started wearing rubber boots. But it was a summer job. I always did it in a bathing suit. I wear these rubber boots now. And the wind would drift the spray on my back. And somebody said to me, "Aren't you worried you're going to get poisoned?" I said, "Nah, I'm immune." But I wasn't immune. After 3 years of being really careless, I got poisoned by pesticides. And so I went to the doctor and said, "What do you have for pesticide poisoning?" She said, "Nothing." And that was the day it became, I always knew, I remember saying at one point, I know I only get one body. I know I need to take care of it. So I need to pay some attention. So I kind of knew that my health is my responsibility. But when she said nothing, the penny dropped and I could hear the sound really loud. Oh, your health is your responsibility. And so because I had background in biochemistry and genetics and science and it was like I found it interesting, I decided I would try and figure it out for myself. They don't have it. The experts don't have anything. So let me figure it out. So I went and looked in the research in Medline. They had like 16 million different research studies are published there. 16 million. And I started to look at anything that had to do with health and nutrition, disease and nutrition. I didn't pay attention to water and air that much. But the point of it was, well, your body is made out of food, water, and air. So if something goes wrong with the body, then the way you fix it is you raise your standard of intake of food, water, and air. And your body turns over all the time, like it's a major construction site. 98% of the molecules in your body today will have been removed and replaced if you and I get together next year at this time. 98%. You don't notice it, but you're always under major construction. And so if you raise your standard, then within 1 year, you will have rebuilt 98% of your body to a higher standard. That's healing. That's called healing.
What did the pesticide poisoning do to you?
I got nausea, cramps, dizziness. If I turned my head, it felt like my head turned, but my brain didn't. Obviously, that's an experience, because obviously when your head turns, your brain turns. But that's what it felt like. And then low energy. I was 38 years old, and if I walked around a city block, I had to sit down and rest. So I was like 80. I'm 81 now. I have more energy than I did after I got poisoned. And I knew it came from the pesticides. And then I went around and I talked to the people who gave me my pesticide sprayer's license, government, and said, what do you have for what do you have? Can I come and look at some of the research you have on pesticide poisoning? And they said, no, we can't let you do that. And they said, anyway, you probably just have a flu. It's going around. I knew it wasn't the flu. So they were lying to me. And they never, when I was trained to spray pesticides, they never said anything about pesticide poisoning. Nothing.
I lived in Nashville, and Nashville's heavily sprayed community.
Yeah.
And of course, it's on all of our foods that are veggies and fruits and things. And I started having lethargy and weird joint stuff and weird skin stuff. And the Western medicine doctors kept saying that we can't find anything. And someone recommended another doctor to go to who is a biochemist. That was their forte. And I went to her and she ran some tests and she said, you have pesticide poisoning. And I said, oh, okay. And she said, your choices are getting all your blood out and put back in, we'll clean it, put it back in. I went on a 6-month treatment of this stuff I had to drink that was terrible, that I kept in the freezer. And as it was leaching out of my body, it was coming out of the joints. I don't think I've ever been in as much pain as the week it took to leach that stuff out of me.
Wow. Amazing.
It's not fun.
No.
And I would argue, and you might agree with me, that I think a lot of people probably have a low-grade pesticide poisoning at all times.
Oh, yeah. The medical profession, I took a year of medicine because I wanted to know what health is. I think you've probably heard that story. And, what I've realized over the years, everything they do in medicine is not natural. Cutting holes in you, cutting pieces out of you is not natural. The drugs they give you, they're not natural, because if they were natural, you couldn't patent them. So you're always getting things that didn't exist in nature, that don't belong in your body. That's why they have side effects. And it's kind of like you're trying to poison your way to health, and that's not how it works. It goes on and on, everything that's going on there. Radiation, what you expect to cure cancer with rays that are known to cause cancer. You cut out a tumor. It wasn't a tumor that gave you the cancer. Something happened in your body that grew the tumor. So you're dealing with the consequences and you're not dealing with the cause. And it goes on and on, the whole practice of medicine. I'll give you another example. Cold and flu season. Cold and flu viruses have protein coats. They come in through your mouth or your nose or your eyes. And then they hang out in the back of your nose. So it's kind of, you can't sort of like pull them out, poke them out. You can maybe wash them out. But one of the things you can do, and if you were eating raw foods like every other creature on the planet that eats, the enzymes in the raw food digest the food, and the protease enzymes in those raw foods would digest the protein coats off the viruses and put the viruses out of commission.
Would you have to put a carrot in your nose, or how does that work?
Yeah, that would work. No, well, what we do now is we make enzymes in capsules. So then what you do is I open a capsule on my tongue, in my mouth, swish them around everywhere, and then wherever they come in contact with the virus, they put it out of commission before it even gets in your cells. And that's how you should be dealing with respiratory viruses, because you want to pick them off. So you can do that with shooting salt water up your nose. You can do it with lavage, where you pour, you hold your sideways, you put water in one nostril and then drain it out the other nostril, and then you turn it out the other way and do it again.
But not with tap water. Do not just use regular old tap water.
Well, it's better use saline or even distilled water. And what I do is I shoot acid water up my nose that I get I have an electrolyzing machine. So pH 2.5 water, I shoot it up my nose, shoot it in the back of my throat, shoot it on my closed eyes. And it kills 99% of all the viruses in 30 seconds. And again, you're picking them off before they have a chance to get into cells and multiply. And when when a virus gets in a cell, it takes over the machinery and makes 200 or 300 copies of itself and then blows up the cell. And then there's 200 or 300 that are all looking for a cell to infect. Well, the best way to deal with it is pick them off. Pick them off before they get in, or at least pick them off when they come out before they get into another cell. No. We take an antibiotic and they don't work against viruses, right? Or we do all kinds of other crazy stuff. And we do it in ways that are not natural to nature. Even when you take injections, when you take an injection, for something that actually comes to you from the outside in the environment, why are you shooting it into the middle of your body when where the problem is on the surface of your skin in your respiratory tract? Anyway, so we have pesticides, they kill things, but we don't have anything to fix the problems they cause. And the problem is that pesticides kill living organisms. They do it by destroying their nervous system or by destroying their energy production. Those are the two main ways we do it. Well, all creatures on the planet have a lot of biochemistry in common. So if you take something that kills a rat, there's a really good chance that it's going to be poisonous to you as well. And even if you have a pesticide that is for killing weeds, there's a good chance that weed killer is going to be bad for you as well.
Mm-hmm. The indigenous peoples understood this, which is why they planted particular crops in tandem with each other, so that one plant would make sure the weeds didn't grow, another plant would feed the lower plant, another plant would get the sun for everybody, or maybe one plant would get everybody's water supply. And they worked much in tandem.
Yeah, well, in fact, in nature, everything lives together. Including bacteria. You know that bacteria make up 10% of all the biomass on the planet?
Doesn't surprise me.
And human beings altogether only make up 0.1%. So there's 100 times more bacteria biomass than human biomass on this planet. You think you can Clorox all of those bacteria to death? No, don't even try. So you wash your hands, and you don't stick it in the ground and then stick it in your nose or whatever, right? So you do some hygiene, but you got to understand you need to make your immune system so strong. And you do that because it's made out of food, water, air, and light, just like the rest of the body. So if you live aligned with nature and eat aligned with nature, then you have a pretty good chance of having an immune system that can keep you healthy in the midst of nature. But that's not what we do. I got poisoned by pesticides. I was looking for self-help, and I looked at everything. It was everything to do with health and disease, nutrition and health, nutrition and disease. And got stuck on oils because that was the most confusing area. There were lots of studies that I was reading, but I read one study and says omega-6 is an essential fatty acid. An essential fatty acid is defined as, like essential nutrient, is defined as in any nutrient that you have to live and be healthy, but cannot make in your own body and therefore have to bring in from outside. That's the first part. The second part is if you don't get enough of any essential nutrient, you cannot stay healthy. Your health will deteriorate. You will get deficiency symptoms. Those symptoms are degenerative in nature, which just means your body's falling apart. And if you don't get enough of any essential nutrient long enough, you die. These are the essential building blocks for body construction, maintenance, and repair. Okay? And then the third part of the definition is if you're deteriorating because you're not getting enough of an essential nutrient, but before you die, you bring enough back into your body, then all the problems that come from not getting enough are reversed. And that's because life knows how to make a body using your genetic material, provided you take responsibility at your mouth to make sure that optimum amounts of the 42 essential nutrients land in your body, because life has to have them to build that body. And those 42, 18 minerals, 13 vitamins, 9 essential amino acids that come from protein, and 2 essential fatty acids that come from fats, come from oils. So the study says omega-6 is essential. Omega-6 linoleic acid is an essential nutrient. You have to have it to live and be healthy. And the very next study I read said alpha-linolenic acid, omega-6, gives you cancer and kills you. And what do you think happened? My head exploded. Like, how the hell can this happen? I have to have it to be healthy, and then it gives me cancer and kills me. And it was like, first I sat there, it was like, what, you know? And then it was like, okay, there must be something else missing. There must be something missing. So that forced me to look deeper into how oils are made. And what I found out is that when oils are made, the way industry makes oils, they press the oil out, or they dissolve it out with solvents, depending. And then they treat the oil with sodium hydroxide, a very corrosive base, then with phosphoric acid, a very corrosive acid, then with bleaching clays to take out the color molecules because they attract light, which damages the oil. And then the oil goes rancid, and now they have to deodorize it to get the stink off, and they have to heat it to frying temperature to get that done. And in that processing, you end up with a colorless, odorless, tasteless oil, but you also end up with about 0.5 to 1% of the molecules of the oil being damaged by that processing. On top of that, you'll have pesticides in it because they don't use organically grown seeds, and you get plastic in the oil because they put it in plastic bottles, and plastic swells when you put oil in it, and then plastic leaches into oil quicker than into water. I didn't know any of that stuff. So 1%, 0.5 to 1% damage. And I thought, well, that can't be good. So I called the Oil Chemist Society, and I said, I want to talk to a researcher. And they said, okay, we'll put a researcher on the line. They put him on the line. And I said, so when you know that the processing you do to oils damages them, why do you do that? And he said, well, one of the reasons we do that is because we can get rid of half of the pesticides in the oil by deodorizing it at frying temperature. He didn't say frying temperature, by deodorizing it, right? I didn't know there were pesticides in oils. So in my head, I'm saying, oh, you mean the other 50% stay in the oil? I just said in my head, I didn't say that to him. And that wasn't good because I'd been poisoned by pesticides, right? So this was not a good answer for me. So I said to him, well, why don't you start with organically grown seeds? And I got this long silence at the other end of the phone. And I waited. When he got back, he was mad. He said, I don't know what your problem is. The oil is only 1% damaged and it's 99% good. And if you got 99% on an exam, you'd be damn happy, wouldn't you? I got 99.5% on my pesticide sprayer's exam. And I used to get 100% in genetics sometimes. So I wasn't impressed with the 99, but then I backed off and I said, well, maybe I'm overreacting. It's only 1%. So there's a saying, when in doubt, do the math. So I decided, okay, if I have a tablespoon of an oil that is treated like they do and is 1% damaged, how many damaged molecules would I find in that oil? And I'm asking you that question because I want you to answer it, because you'll see why I'm doing that. And of course, it's hard to do that because you don't know how big molecules are and all that, but give it a shot. How many molecules, how many damaged molecules will there be in a tablespoon of oil that is 1% damaged?
I'm going to go with, let's say, I feel like it's a lot. 1 million? 2 million?
Okay. Okay, that's good. Perfect. It's perfect. Now, here's the thing. 1,000,000 has 6 zeros on it, right? So it's actually 60 quintillion.
That's a lot.
So 60 quintillion is a 6 followed by 19 zeros. So subtract 6, and you have a 6 followed by 13 zeros. If it was 12 zeros, it would be a trillion. This is 6 followed by 13. So you have got 60 trillion. So your estimate is 60 trillion times too low. So that when people use these oils, and they have a guess like you did, they think it is 60 trillion times safer than it actually is.
Mm.
Right? They're doing 60 trillion times more damage to themselves by using these oils than they think they're doing. Mm-hmm. That's why I do it, because you say, wow, I had no idea. So how much is 60 quintillion molecules? In 1 tablespoon, you get enough damaged molecules to get more than 1,000,000 damaged molecules for every one of your body's 60 trillion cells. 1,000,000 damaged molecules, tablespoon. But we usually use 2 to 4 a day. So you got to multiply that in. You got the pesticides, you got the plastic. We use them for frying. When you fry oils, you probably damage them 3 to 6 times more than they're already damaged. So you got to multiply that in. And if you do that for 30 years, you have to multiply the number that you just came up with by 10,000 times, because there's about 10,000 days in 30 years. That's astronomical numbers of unnatural toxic molecules that we are feeding ourselves on a daily basis. And more health problems come from damaged oils than any other part of nutrition. And more health benefits will come from oils if we give the body the oil change it needs, from the dirty oils out, the clean oils in. And out of that calculation, I said, you know what? I can't get healthy on dirty oils like this. We should make them with health in mind. And how do you do that? Oils are very sensitive to damage by light, by oxygen, and by heat. So you have to create a pressing system that is super tight. So no light, no oxygen, and only low temperature. Get to the oil while it's being pressed, while it's being filtered, while it's being settled, and while it's being filled. And then when you then you keep it refrigerated in the factory. They ship it to the stores, they keep it refrigerated. You take it home, you keep it refrigerated. And then you use that oil that you're keeping in the refrigerator on foods after they come off the heat source. And you never, ever, 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 ever use the oil for frying. And then the oil remains in its natural state. You get omega-3 and omega-6, both of which are essential by the definition I already gave. And then you have to get them in the right ratio, because they compete in the body. And if you get too much of one, it crowds out the other. If you get too much of the other, it crowds out the one. So you have to get the ratio right. And then you take that oil and you add it to food. You always add it to food. Could be shakes, could be smoothies, could be mashed potatoes, could be pasta sauce, could be steamed veggies. And they're compatible with all foods. And you want to get a tablespoon per 50 pounds of body weight per day. That's why 2 to 4 tablespoons for most people. And you get enough, ballpark, that's enough to make your skin soft and velvety, because omega-3 and 6 form a barrier in the skin against the loss of moisture. And if you have dry skin, you need more good oils.
And which kind of oil specifically?
Well, we started with flax oil because that's the richest source of omega-3 commonly available.
You're the inventor of that, am I correct?
I developed the machinery and that for making oils with health in mind, and flax oil was the first oil we developed in 1986. So it has a lot of omega-3s, and 99% of the population is not getting enough omega-3s for optimum health, and every cell requires it.
Is it essential to do it as an oil, or if people? I know a lot of people eat flax seeds that are still seed form.
Yeah. Well, if you just swallow the seeds without chewing them up, they will literally go through your body, and you can plant them, and they'll still grow, because they have a very hard covering on them, because the seed is not there to feed you. The seed is there to make another flax plant. So then you have to chew them up or blend them up or do something if you want to get the nutrition. But there's another issue. People say to me, well, why don't you just use whole foods? Because nature's, that's how nature did it. And of course, that is how nature did it. And so I asked a question, is optimum health nature's mandate? Because if optimum health is nature's mandate, then just eating whole foods would get you optimum health. But I'm not sure that that's true, because here's what nature does. Nature wants you healthy enough to grow up. Wants you healthy enough to be able to reproduce. Wants you healthy enough so you can take care of your kids until your kids don't need you anymore, and then neither does nature. And so then when your kids are grown, like if you didn't live in a civilized place, you were just hanging out, you'd probably have your first kid when you're 14, 15, maybe 20 if you're slow, right? By the time the kids are grown and don't need you anymore, you're 40, and then nature will recycle you. Well, how would nature do that? You should never be optimally healthy, because if you're optimally healthy, you'll live longer. But if nature wants to recycle you at 40, then it's best to keep you suboptimally healthy or minimally healthy. Because then when it's time to, your machinery slows down in your body as you get older. So by the time you hit 40, 45, it's recycling time. So, but I wanted to test it, because that's just a theory. So what I did is I took seeds and nuts, and by this time I was working with a blend, because flaxseed oil made me omega-6 deficient, because it's poorly balanced. Has 4 times more omega-3 than omega-6, and that crowds up the omega-6s. So I got dry eyes, skipped heartbeats, arthritis-like pain in my finger joints, and thin papery skin. Fixed it by eating sunflower seeds, which have only omega-6s and no omega-3s. So I brought the balance back, symptoms went away.
Can you eat them at the same time?
Yeah, well, then we made a blend, because I'm trying to get people healthy. My big inspiration was, oh my God, if we could bring omega-3s back into people's diets and they weren't damaged by light, oxygen, or heat, oh my God, we could help almost everybody. And it feels really good in the heart when you help. Helping is like very satisfying, right? It doesn't satisfy you if you haven't done your homework to know how to get there. But once you've done that, helping is the thing that makes you shine. Helping is what makes you happy, right? We talked about on the last one, right? So I was totally inspired to do that. And then it became omega-6 deficient. That's why we developed a blend, because we had to get the ratio right. So we mixed flax, sunflower, sesame, evening primrose oil, rice germ, oat germ, coconut, a little bit of coconut, lecithin, vitamin E, and made a blend that has everything in it that you need, nothing you should avoid, in the right ratio, all organic, made with health in mind. And so we started working with the blend. I decided to see if I could get optimum health from just eating seeds and nuts. And I was in California, and it was summer. You need less oil in summer than in winter. I use 4 tablespoons in winter and only 2 or 3 in summer, because in winter you burn more of it to create heat to keep you warm. So I was in summer in California. I used 5 tablespoons of flax and 3 tablespoons of sunflower and sesame to get the same ratio as the ratio we have in the blend. And I couldn't eat more than that, because flax absorbs 6 times its weight in water. So it super swells up. So my 5 tablespoons became 30 tablespoons. So I was doing 33 tablespoons of seeds to get my omega-3s and 6s. And the ratio was the same. And even in summer, when I need less oil, I could not keep my skin from drying up. And so my answer to that question was, because it's a great question and everybody asked it, my answer to that question was, I can't do it on seeds alone. Some people may be able to, and some people can't even do it with the oil because they're high metabolizers and they burn the oil before it makes it to the skin. And those people may actually need to put some coconut oil on their skin from the outside. That's probably, I'd guess 2 to 5% of the population are high metabolizers like that.
How do you know if you're one of those?
Well, you take tablespoon per 50, and if your skin keeps being dry, then you use coconut. Now, when we started, we were in the height of low-fat diets. Everybody's on low-fat diets. So I went to the Vegetarian International Society and gave a talk there in Vegas. And so I got on stage and I said, "So how many of you are completely plant-based?" All the hands went up. Then I said, "How many of you have dry skin?" All the hands went up. And I said, okay, so there's something to be said for eating plants or eating more plant-based. But the mistake you're making in your plant-based diet is you're not getting enough oil. That's why your skin is dry. Shows up in the desert more than in humid climates, shows up in winter more than in summer. When your skin is dry, you need more of the right kind of oil. And the omega-3 and 6 together form a barrier in the skin against the loss of moisture, and skin gets them last and loses them first. Because the inner organs get priority on it, because you can live with dry skin, but you can't live with a dried out heart or dried out liver. So liver, they get priority on them. When it makes it to the skin, your skin is soft and velvety, you know that the rest of your body has what it needs. It's a nice, easy way to keep track of it. And it doesn't make your skin greasy, but it makes it velvety, because the oils, the essential fatty acids kind of keeps pushing away from each other.
Did people think you were nuts? No pun intended.
Oh, people still think I'm nuts. Wait, when I did that, no, I said, but you know what? This is an experiment. The body is an experiment. The body is a laboratory. I can do things to it and it'll change and I'll get symptoms. Just like if you eat junk food, you're going to end up with a junk body. If you do everything right, you're going to have energy and your skin is going to be good and your brain is going to work and you're going to be capable. Here's the laboratory. I'm going to do any experiment I want to do. It doesn't cost me a dime other than for what I put in it. So I can do an experiment at least for one person. What does my body tell me? And in some ways, we are different, in not in huge ways, but in some ways. And so what do? You need to find out what works for your body. If you can get soft, smooth, velvety skin on whole seeds and nuts alone, go for it. I eat them too. But I can't get my skin right, so I use oils on top of that. My conclusion was, my idea that, after your kids are grown, nature would happily recycle you. Turns out for me to be true. I'm 81 now, so I'm cheating nature a little. And in order to do that, I have to hydrate some of the essential nutrients that nature makes. They're still essential nutrients.
And the oil that you make through your company is, I believe, I may be incorrect here, but it's the number one in the world, is it not?
Nobody's doing what we're doing.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah. Well, because why? It's because my brainchild. It was my obsession that created all that. There are people who make flax oil. They never got further than I did because it wasn't their obsession. They were just selling stuff, right? And they put it in plastic bottles. Really dumb idea. We started in plastic when I found out that oils swell plastic and then plastic leaches into oil. It's in the Encyclopedia of Plastics. That's where I found it. I told all the people who were making flax oil, and they all learned from me. I told them, change the glass because plastic leaches into oils. None of them would do it because plastic is cheaper and easier to work with.
All my balsamics and all my avocado oil and my olive oil, I only buy glass.
Yeah. Yeah, oil belongs in glass.
Yeah. And dark glass as well.
Yeah, dark glass, and then we put a box around it to keep the light out, so nobody wanted to do that either. Because that's, again, it's more work, and it's more expensive. But you actually get something that isn't damaged. See, and you can tell by whether they package in glass or plastic, whether they actually care about health or environment. We're the only guys in glass, and we're the only ones who have the ratio. People tried to copy it, but they didn't know the ratio. And then they didn't know because different people think different ratios are better. But I've been working with people and getting the feedback for 40 years. I know more about it than anybody on the planet. And we use a ratio that's higher in omega-3. That's not what the researchers say, but the researchers aren't talking to real people. They're doing experiments in laboratories. So some of them say 4 times more omega-6 than omega-3. You do not get the results we get with our richer in omega-3. And then we did some studies with athletes. They never got published because we weren't affiliated with the university. When people took a tablespoon per 50 pounds of body weight per day of Udo's oil mixed in food and intake spread out over the course of the day, how we recommend to take it, within a month, within 30 days, if they did their sport to exhaustion, they had 40 to 60% more, longer performance, more stamina, better performance, 40 to 60%, just by changing the oil.
When you took it to market, was it hard to convince the grocery? You're in Whole Foods, I know, but was it hard to convince those people to carry it? Because I imagine it would cost a little more.
When we started, we were doing flax oil, and what happened was when I realized, oh my God, I could help so many people, I just got so lit up. There was so much enthusiasm and juice and energy. I mean, we did a tour in a van without air conditioning in the hottest months of the year in the United States. I slept on the floor of the van. We had our clothes on a broomstick inside the double doors. And we basically worked all day and then drove all night. We were just so on fire. And you know what? It was the enthusiasm that carried that through. In 2 years, flax oil became the second highest selling oil in the health food trade where we were working. And everybody wanted, nobody said, oh, no. Everybody wanted to carry the oil. Everybody, because there was so much juice and it just became a huge buzz. And then everybody wanted to. And then we would say, well, do you have refrigeration in your storage? If they said yes, I would hand them to the guy who did the deals to see if they could make a deal. If they said no, I'd say, are you willing to bring it in? If they said yes, I'd say, well, call us when you have it. And if they said no, I would say, this is a good time to end the interview. We were not going to do business with anybody who wasn't willing to take care of our precious oils. It was wild. I mean, we had lineups for people wanting to carry the oil. Everybody wanted to carry the oil because everybody was talking about it. Oh my God, Udo making oils with health in mind. It's like, and then when the blend came along, it was not a big deal. It was Udo's oil. We called it Udo's oil, right? Udo's oil. Udo. Yeah. We want that. The buzz started it, but people consistently saw improvements so regularly that a lot of the marketing was done by people talking to their friends. And that's the value of taking the time and making the effort at the front end to create something that is so aligned with nature that you actually see the results. And I don't know a single nutritional product, not any of the 18 minerals or the 13 vitamins or the 9 essential amino acids, except for the omega-3, because it's the biggest nutrient deficiency of our time, most widespread nutrition deficiency of our time. I've not seen remarkable results like that consistently with any other nutrient.
Do you have your own orchards, or do you source for your nuts?
No. It's sourced. We source it from flax from Canada, and you can't. We have sesame seed. Well, that grows in a different climate than flax does. So we go organically grown farms. We have agreements with the farmers, and then we have places like in Canada is flax. Flax is a northern seed. Omega-3s are kind of northern oils. So we get it from Canada, but if Canada has a drought, we might get it from Argentina. Or if it doesn't in Argentina, there's places in Europe where you can get it as well. And then the sesame comes from other places, again. But it's got to be organic, got to be certified. So you have to know the farmers, because there are some people who say it's organic when it's not. So there's always that kind of stuff. And so we get it from everywhere, and we built the machinery. We had engineers build the parts to the machinery, because the oil industry doesn't make those kind of tight systems, because they're more interested in shelf life than they are in health. And that gives them a big market, and it's a huge industry. It's $100 billion industry a year. We're relatively small. I think flax is about $1 billion a year.
I often wonder about shelf life. I think, what happens if your product, for example, sits on the shelf for what you personally would deem too long? Is there some sort of an agreement that they have to only have it for X amount of years or days or months?
No, there's a 1-year shelf life if it's refrigerated and closed. Once you open it, we recommend you use it within 8 weeks. If you want a longer shelf life than a year, freeze it, put it in the freezer. Oil shrinks when you freeze it, so the bottles won't break. Water expands and breaks bottles. You freeze the oil in the freezer. That's what I do. I get a case at a time, stick it in the freezer, pull out the bottle I'm using, put it in the fridge, open it, use it within 8 weeks. But if you're using a tablespoon or 2 tablespoons or 4 tablespoons a day, you go through the bottle way quicker than that.
Mm-hmm.
Shelf life on all of that. If it's in transit longer than 2 weeks, it gets shipped refrigerated. Like when we ship it to Europe and Asia, it's shipped refrigerated. It's important. 2 weeks maximum non-refrigerated.
I'm very excited to try this for myself, as I have not had it before.
Yeah.
I eat nuts every day.
Yeah. Play with it. See? Yeah, you might be one of those people who doesn't need oil, can just do it with nuts alone. I can't. I'm.
Oh no! In the winter, I personally start drying out. My fingers crack. My lips crack.
Yeah. Well, that'll stop. That'll stop if you use enough oil. My fingers used to crack. My fingers never crack. I have nothing. I have no arthritis. Well, here's my fingers. See?
Yeah.
Nothing there. No cracks.
And I come from a family of arthritis people, so I'm willing to try anything.
Yeah.
To preserve health.
Yeah, good idea. Might as well,
I ain't getting any younger either.
I know I'm going to die one day. That's what people say. Oh, why worry about it? Oh, you're going to die anyway. Yeah. Okay, but I want to die healthy.
Right. My dad always says that as well. Why die miserable? Die healthy. Which is it's a conundrum, of course, but I know what he's trying to say.
And when you have pain, the pain is your friend. It's trying to tell you something. Something needs to be different here. It doesn't tell you what it is. So then you have to mess around and try and figure it out, right?
Mm-hmm.
But pain is not an enemy. Pain is a if it wasn't for pain, we would get really stupid and never find our way back.
There is disorder that there's a tiny, tiny percentage of humans that don't feel pain. They're born with the inability, and it's a very dangerous way to live a life.
Oh yeah, well there are diabetics who don't have any pain receptors in their legs, and they bang into stuff, and they actually injure themselves. And sometimes they injure themselves and they're bleeding and they don't even notice because in diabetes, your nerves kind of get deadened, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And how are you going to make it through the world if you can't feel that you're banging into something? How would you know? Then I got into digestion because that's the second most neglected area. And in digestion, most things that go wrong with digestion, you can fix with digestive enzymes or probiotics or fiber or bitter herbs, or combination of those. So I got into that next, which should work with digestive enzymes and probiotics. And I brush my teeth with probiotics, and I don't wake up with bad breath in the morning. How about that? And I have no digestion problem issues at all. I eat lots of raw, lots of plant-based. I'm 81, and I have a ton of energy, and also digestive enzymes. They'll digest the protein coat off viruses, so they're very helpful. Raw foods and digestive enzymes, very helpful with respiratory issues. Probiotics, very important to keep unfriendly bacteria to get from getting out of hand in your digestive system. Fiber, obviously good for bowel regularity and blood sugar, slowing blood sugar absorption and all of that. Bitters for liver, both liver and digestive function. So I did that. Then I got into greens because it's like, okay, well, what else do we need to do here? Oh, greens. Yeah, everybody knows they should be eating their greens, and most people don't. So we made portable greens that people can take on the road if they want to pay attention to their intake. And sometimes when you travel, you're around a lot of bad food. So you can take them along and make your own green drink in the morning, or put them in your oatmeal or whatever, put them on your bacon and eggs. I know, I'm just kidding. And then after that, I got into what else affects health. And I realized, oh my God, everything affects health. And so that's when I said, okay, we need to create a field of total health based in nature and human nature. And the inner part of it that is most neglected, the contentment part and the unconditional empowering love part and the inspiration part that are all internal to each human being, is the most neglected of all topics on this planet. And so that's what I got into. That's what I'm into now. And then we talked about that the last time I came on.
Yeah, that was a great conversation.
Human nature. Yeah.
It seems to me that, especially in the United States, that we are a human race now that is weirdly obese and yet starving.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, why is that? Because we eat refined foods. White sugar has no nutrients in it, only fuel. White flour has had a lot of nutrients taken out, and the white oils have had all the nutrients taken out except the essential fatty acids, and a part of that is damaged. And so when you're eating foods like that, you stay hungry because your body is still saying, I need more. Because you're supposed to be eating undamaged, you're supposed to be eating whole foods. And you're getting your minerals and your vitamins, and you don't have a hunger for magnesium and a hunger for omega-3s and a hunger for zinc. You just have hunger, and all of zinc and all of the minerals and vitamins came with the whole foods. So life never elaborated different nutrient needs for specific nutrients, right? So then when you eat badly, you eat foods not the way nature made them, but the way industry made them, then you set yourself up for never being satisfied, eating more than you need. On top of that, you got stress, that makes you eat. Also, on top of that, we've focused on carbs, and carbs will turn on fat production and turn off fat burning in the body. And so then what happens, you overeat them, your blood sugar goes up, the excess goes in the cells, is turned into fat, then your blood sugar goes down, then you get cravings, then you get carb addiction. And carb addiction has been measured to be between 4 and 8 times more addictive than cocaine, right? And then you get all of the junk. I mean, I don't know what, I think it's something like 60 to 80% of the foods that people eat in North America, not just US, by the way, Canada, Europe too, 60 to 80% is like junk food, fast food.
It's
white
also
flour.
much cheaper, unfortunately. And beware of the word enriched. Never a good thing.
Yeah, enriched. Yeah, how you know how enriched goes? They take 26 minerals and vitamins out of the grain, then they add 6 back, and then they call it enriched. It should have been called impoverished.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that isn't going to change. Just like all of our crazy warness and all of that crazy fighting and conflict we have is not going to get fixed until we feel whole inside and enjoy our life. Well, our physical health problems are not going to get fixed until we begin to live in line with nature again. Eat our foods the way nature makes them. So that would be fresh, whole, raw, organic. For human, mostly plant-based.
Yeah, the organisms that live in our body have their own agenda. For example, you mentioned probiotic. When the little bugs in our bellies and in our colon, if there's an let's just say yeast, for example, yeast wants more sugar. So it's going to create in your mind the idea that you think you want candy or ice cream or sugary things, when in reality, it's not you that wants it. It's the little organisms that are pulling the levers in your brain.
Yeah, but you have to be a little careful. It's true, yeast loves sugar and cancer cells love sugar. And it's true that they have their own ways to try and get what they want. But you got to be careful. You're still in charge and you still can make decisions. And fundamentally, what you need to do to get rid of the yeast and the cancer cells is you need to cut sugar out of your diet completely. Doesn't mean you can't eat fruit. No white sugar. I got no white sugar in my house. I never use it. No white flour. I don't have bread or pasta or pancakes or any of that garbage in my house. I eat seeds, nuts, greens, fruit. And whole foods, the way nature made them. If it ain't the way nature made it, don't eat it, except for the oil. Are you a vegan? Except for the oil. No, I don't like vegan. I like plant-based. And I don't like some of the harshness that goes with some vegan philosophies. I posted an article on one of my social media, and the title was, "Love is more important than vegetables." Because if you're going to eat vegetables and you treat people like crap, you're not helping the planet that much. I would rather talk to a meat eater who is kind to people than to a vegan who is abrasive. You know, the abrasiveness is completely misguided, in my opinion. We need more peace and more love and more inspiration on the planet. And I think a good case can be made for eating whole food, plant-based, much more than we do. And out of insight comes the change in habits, not out of being hammered over the head. So it's just bad strategy. So I don't want to be associated with that kind of strategy. Rarely do I have any dairy. Very rare. I haven't eaten meat, I don't know for how long. Or eggs. And I feel really, and I'm a type O, they're supposed to be the meat eaters, according to one of the blood type diet. I've always done better on vegetables. The older I get, the more I eat raw, and raw works for me really well. Raw, organic, plant-based, fresh, whole.
Well, I think you made a good point, too, that you said you have to experiment and see what works well for your body. Yeah. And how your body responds.
Yeah, and it'll change. You have to keep experimenting because it changes with age. Because what worked when I was younger doesn't work for me now. And I know it. I do exceptionally well on plant-based. Plant-based raw. I never sort of set out say, "Oh yeah, I think plant-based raw. Yeah, that's a really good idea." It wasn't like that. I'm just following what works for my body. And like I say, I'm 81, and people can't believe how young I am. That's what they say. You say you look like you're in your 60s, and you talk like you're still a kid. Yeah. So
tell everyone how they might find you again.
Udo's Choice, udoschoice.com. That's where the products are. And then the Udo, THEUDO. That's the website we're building. That's more on the big picture stuff, the total health and the psychology stuff, and the human nature. I have a YouTube channel under Udo Erasmus, and I'm on Instagram. And if you punch in Udo on Google, UDO, not even a 4-letter word, I'm on the first page because there are not so many Udos on the planet. Okay, nice. It was always an embarrassment to have a strange name like that, but now it's a bonus.
Absolutely. And I know that Whole Foods carries your products and
all the health food stores. It's in the fridge. The oil is in the fridge in the supplement section in the health food stores. The probiotics are under the Flora brand. They're also in the fridge, and the enzymes are on the shelf because they don't need refrigeration as long as they're dry. And the greens, I think, the greens are also on the shelf.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming back on the show.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you for listening, everybody. Yeah, it's been really great.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Susan.
Take care.
All right.
Rate, review, and subscribe to Hey Human Podcast on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks. Bye.